What's up, everybody, and welcome to Hot Corner Rant. You know my man Shane Clunin. Shane, say what's up to the people.
What's up, the people?
So, a big thing we're going to be talking about today is high school tryouts and bad coaching. Now, we're going to let Shane start this off because in the Northeast, apparently, they have tryouts 2 weeks before their season. It's a different style in Cali, but Shane, take it away.
Yeah, dude. So we had about 2 months of lifting, and that rolled into 6 weeks, 8 weeks of winter workouts 2 times a week. And then we just got through with our tryouts. They were 2 days. And then we picked our teams on Tuesday night, and we made our cuts on Wednesday, and our first practice was yesterday. So I'm looking forward to this season. But when it comes down to the tryouts, I think we'll go into this, but I think a lot of the things that build into the tryout isn't just the tryout day itself, right? How do you perform all winter long, especially with two new coaches coming in, right? It doesn't matter what you did last year. It doesn't matter if the last coach saw something in you, right? It's a whole new world. It's a whole new realm. And, I think we had to make some tough decisions, which it's a huge program. So many guys tried out. There's only so many slots we can take. And I think the toughest thing for people to understand is that baseball is the hardest sport to get yourself onto a field. There's only 9 positions and there's not shifts. So, you could bring up hockey, right? 5, but, they're only playing 30 to a minute at a time, 30 seconds to a minute. Football, you have offense, defense, soccer, you have 11. It's a tough sport to make a team, especially in a program where you're breeding Division I guys every year.
Well, not to mention, like you said in baseball, like you pull a guy out, he's done for the day. Or, with our rules in high school, it's like you can pull a guy out for an inning and then sub back in starter. But if he's a sub and he gets subbed out, he's done for the day. Where in football, you can constantly have a guy constantly switching every play. Same thing with hockey, same thing with basketball. So, you know what? Parents, players, they get frustrated with this. But, one thing I really want to dig in when it comes to high school tryouts, and this even goes for college, pro showcases, all that stuff. I'm not going to say the tryouts are BS, but it's kind of like, one of those things where it's like, okay, we're going to hit you your 2 ground balls in the outfield, your 2 ground balls in the infield, and you're going to take your 10 swings on the field and then run a 60. Just little things where it's so, I don't know, like the word for it, but it's very it's so miniature where, you and me both know there's more to being a good baseball player than just having specific tools. You got to have a great baseball IQ. You have to have baseball smarts, and you have to just kind of be situational, be good in pressure situations where when you're catching a ground ball and you're getting maybe 2 ground balls to catch at shortstop, throw across first, can you really tell who a good player is just by watching him catch 2 ground balls? Yeah, you could tell the athleticism.
Right,
but
and everybody has good days, bad days. Baseball is a game of failure, so who's to say you're on your game those 2 days, right?
Exactly.
And with so many guys trying out, we're 6A, we had over 85 guys try out.
Oh, wow.
It's you got to be the best 9, and that number shrinks really, really quick.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing I want to talk to a lot of, because, the way our tryouts work in Cali is this, we actually have our tryouts in October. And then we have a second set of tryouts in November after the football season is kind of coming to a close because, we have that good weather all year. But it's one of those things where it's, your 2 fly balls, your 2 ground balls in the infield, you take a couple of swings in the cage, and, outside of evaluating, because everyone, good coaches, bad coaches, great coaches, really bad coaches, they can all see a kid who runs fast, a kid who rolls up to the tryout and just looks physically gifted, physically athletic. We're not dumb. We could see all that stuff.
Right.
But where I take a look, especially when it comes to the tryout, is how they carry themselves. And I'm not talking about the drip. I'm not talking about the swag. I'm talking, okay, hey, is this guy dressed properly? And that's one thing I want to get into is the etiquette. Is this guy wearing his pants? Does he have a belt on? Does he have matching socks? Is he not wearing his hat to the side? Little things
How
like
do
that.
they warm up? That's my biggest one.
Yes.
Watching guys warm up is pretty much how I command how my team's going to go.
And I think that's a big thing to look at too, because when guys don't take their warm ups, I get it. It's just catch play, but at the same time, if you're not doing your mechanics correctly, you're not getting your body loose the right way, you're gonna play like crap.
That's it.
And so many guys, especially when I get it, they're high school guys, they're young, they're not going to pull any muscles because you can't really pull what you don't have. But like, they can roll up to a field and sprint without stretching. Like it's different, but it's also like you need to make sure the warm up is solid because we want you to do it correctly when your body's not even thinking about it.
Right. Well, here, maybe Carmex can sponsor us. Got some chap lips up here. We got the weather changing. It's starting to get nice.
It just rained. It just rained where I'm at. We actually got our 2 games canceled because the fields aren't playable. So I'm pretty bummed out.
Yeah, we have our first outdoor practice today. But let me ask you a question when it comes to tryouts and coaching. So we had this issue come up with actually a number of players. So I hope that they still watch this and maybe kind of get an insight on how other coaches view this as well. So we had numerous guys who are committed to college baseball, like committed to schools to play, who got cut from the high school team. Right? A couple of them were injuries. A couple of them, just we have higher level baseball guys. They're going D1, D2, and it just beats out the D3, and the roster, like I said, filled up quick. So what we try to explain to these guys is instead of sitting on the bench all year and just, you're on a team, right? That's the coolest thing in the world in high school. But now let's have the talk that we didn't have when we were in high school. Would you rather sit on the bench and rot for your junior and senior year, right? Sit out on the turf 2 hours a day, every day after school, or would you rather at your own pace, take the year off, get better, hit the gym, take that full period of time, especially before summer ball, and just work on your craft, right? Like clearly somebody sees that you're high enough level to play college baseball, but like, why are you getting cut from that high school team, right? Like, would you rather sit on the bench all year and say you're on the team but have no stats, or would you rather know you're going to college, get bigger, stronger, and get to that collegiate level?
It's funny you bring that up because when you're getting looked at by colleges, sometimes they have to talk to your high school coach. Other times, and just like a school you're coaching at, that school sounds very talented. There's some pretty talented schools like that in my area where it's like, hey, you could be a baller baseball player that's going to go to D3, D2, NAIA, but you're going to be playing behind multiple dudes that have potential D1 exposure, potential draft exposure. And even though you're a good player, there's some better players in front. So sitting the bench and rotting away is not the move. Like I remember I used to hate talking to coaches about this where they say, yeah, like I can't believe this kid, he's a sophomore. We told him to be on varsity, but we told him he was going to sit all year as a sophomore on varsity and he wanted to play JV so he can get playing time. That's selfish. And it's like, not necessarily, like, granted, yeah, the kid probably wants to be on varsity, but sometimes sitting the bench on a team can do more harm than good. Now,
exactly. We have tons of guys like that. We told them, you're varsity ready, but there's just guys who are, all section, they're coming back from last year. So we want you on JV, which is a delicacy, really, because you're able to play every day and get better, but just waiting for those guys to leave. You got to play a 4-year cycle sometimes.
The only time I would ever have a freshman or varsity on varsity or sophomore on varsity and have him be on the team but not play is if I was personally watching over him. Like if I was like, say I was the head of the program, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, you're going to be on varsity this year. You're going to be a sophomore on varsity. You're not going to get a lick of playing time.
Right.
Here's what you're going to do with me though. I'm going to personally train you and teach you the system. It's like, I know this is a completely different sport, but it's like when Todd Marinovich back in the 80s was a quarterback at USC. He was the best quarterback on the team. But they were like, hey, we're going to redshirt you so you can learn our system. You can perfect our system. And then when you come in as a redshirt freshman next year, you are going to be an absolute savage, which he was. And you know what? They did the same thing with Brian Bosworth at Oklahoma. They redshirted him his freshman year so he can learn the defensive system as the captain middle linebacker. And then when he came in, he just started breaking heads. And that's the same thing. When you're a baseball player, hey, listen, you're a freshman on varsity. You're a phenomenal pitcher. We're going to teach you how to locate better. We're going to teach you how to hold guys on because sometimes when these freshmen come up, they have a terrible pickoff move. It's slow. Guess what? Don't matter if you throw 98 or 78. if you're moved to the first base is slow, they're gonna run on you. If you're a hitter, that's a and it's like, okay, hey, you're gonna need some at bats, but at the same time, we're gonna need to teach you your movement, your strength. We're gonna need to build you up because there's certain things in your game that's holding you back. And I told some of my JV guys this year that, could be on varsity, but there's just so many guys on the team. I'm like, look, treat it as your redshirt year. Treat the weight room very seriously. Take your at-bat seriously. Look to blow the guys out. Granted, you're not getting your reps on varsity, but you're on JV. Use it to your advantage. Play a full season. Build your skills. Focus. This is the first time these guys have had a coach where it's like, hey, you lack in this tool. Let's build this tool over the season. You lack in that tool. Let's build. Oh, you need to lose 2 or 3 pounds. Let's work on that. So when you get into varsity, it's not like, oh crap, he's a year inexperienced out of varsity because he played JV last year. It's like, dude, just because you don't play varsity right away doesn't mean you need 2 more years on varsity to have experience. No, you just need to have tools and a confident mindset. Like, I made the jump from JV to varsity, and
Right.
was my average the same as it was on JV? No, because the defense was better and the game was faster. But I didn't hit bad. My numbers just weren't as high because the defense got better, but I still looked like I belonged. And that's one thing a lot of people just don't understand.
Right. Yeah, dude, I think a lot of people don't really even know that, like, I was a JV warrior, dude. I killed it in JV. But when it came to varsity, my 2 years, I think I maybe had 4 total innings, if that. But like I was saying earlier, like, people are too worried about just making the team. That's all they care about. They don't care about the development after the fact. It's just it's that short-term goal without any long-term reward for themselves after. So I did. I made the team. I could have easily played JV. I played varsity, and I sat there, and the coach texts me all the time. Coach Fisher, great guy, shout him out. He texted me today. But I didn't play, and to be honest with you, I sucked in high school. I just wasn't the dude, right? Leading into my senior year, I was killing it in the off season, and my tryouts went great all off season. Eric Chalice, pitching Division I at Kent State now, he was like, I had my eyes set on him, right? I thought it was me and him. And then the season started, and again, I think I got like an inning my senior year. I was supposed to pitch on senior night, and it got rained out, and we never rescheduled. And that was my career. But what did I do, right? I didn't bitch and moan. I went to every practice, hard-headed, right? Ready to learn. I'm here to get better. I got better a little bit over the years. I mean, here I am now, right? And but I sat next to the coaches, Coach DeCoolby, Coach Fisher, and I watched. I listened. I watched the way they ran their practices. Like, I put my full faith in all that. And now as a coach, I take a lot of the stuff exactly the way they had it, exactly how I remember it, and I set my stuff up the same way. And for coaching high school baseball 1 year now, that proved to be successful already. It was successful back when I was in high school, and like I said, I shout out my appreciation to them. But the guys who are in that similar situation, a lot of the times when they're just that bench guy, they just tend to mess around on the bench the whole game. It ends up being a game for them, and it's all fun and games, right?
It drives me crazy.
None of them really sat there and watched and listened. Like, yeah, I'm not playing, but why, right? Like, what is he seeing that I'm not seeing? I had a couple guys try last year, but nobody was really too consistent. So I hope the guys watching the podcast now from Central, that's something I'm looking for. Like, be on my shoulder and learn from me while I learn from you guys, and we'll mesh all together. But let's talk tryouts. Let's move into etiquette, because I think we had a lot of very, very poor etiquette at our tryout. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on etiquette first before we roll.
So there's a couple things on etiquette, and that's funny because I was actually going to bring it up. When it's a high school tryout or a college tryout or anything, at the end of the day, the coach is trying to put together the best team. And with a coach like myself, I don't just look at talent like 90% of coaches do. I'm looking at your talent, I'm looking at your work ethic, and I'm looking at your heart, because at the end of the day, you can tell if a kid's got freaking heart to play. Absolutely. And, if you just try to rely solely based on the talent, some guys who just got coasted through to talent with no work ethic, they're going to get lazy, and how can you trust them at the end of the day?
They
So
get passed up real quick.
Yeah, like, so I watch all that stuff very closely in how they carry themselves, how they dress, how they play. The big one, and this is a big trial etiquette thing for me, hustling on and off the field. That, like, we can't coach a kid's attitude and effort. That's one thing a kid can control every day. And if he's sprinting to everything and coming hard off the field, I'm like, you know what? This kid may not be the most talented, but I can work with this. Like, those guys are warriors to me. And, it's tough to beat a guy that won't quit,
Absolutely. So some things that we ran into for our tryout, just crazy things that, like, I feel like I was talking about all 8 weeks. One thing I preach to all of my pitchers coming into this new program is the walk rate, right? I'm coming into a program that had a very high walk rate last year. So all winter long, I don't care if you throw 90 plus, right? I know you guys have it in you, but you're walking more people than you're getting out, right? So that doesn't help me. So everything we did was about accuracy. Mm-hmm. And I kid you not, during the tryout, a majority of the guys who I think ended up being cut or not rostered were guys who all came up to me after their tryout was over and cared about their velocity. What was my highest velocity there, Coach?
First Congratulations. You throw 96, but you can't throw it over the plate.
Exactly. First off, this is a tryout. Second off, the number's a lot lower than I think you think, right? We had one guy hit 90 miles an hour during our tryout. And during the winter, a lot of guys are throwing, gassed out 92, 94, right?
Yeah.
And we had one guy hit 90. And so a lot of these guys who are, I hit 88 on the regular, you threw 74 today, my friend. And that's, again, one of those things we talked about a couple weeks ago. Like, these travel organizations, these PBRs, they're there to make their money also. You know what I mean? It's a nice, big nationwide resource, but I've seen a guy throw on a Monday and then get judged at PBR on a Tuesday, and their numbers Tuesday are like double what they had on Monday. I'm like, there's no way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's not who that athlete is.
That's kind of why I push things with my organization the way I do, because it's all about making every player better. But at the same time, you have to utilize it. Just like, they always say, and I can't wait to get into this bad coaching topic because it's going to kind of roll into this, but they say like, oh, like this coach plays favorites or that coach does this. No, at the end of the day, you're trying to win a game. You want to play the guys who are performing. And it's not like when you're playing pro baseball, you're playing over 100 games a year. In high school, you're playing maybe 30 games a year. So you can't wait 5. It's one of those things where it's like, look, you got to go at the same time. If 3 guys are struggling on the bench and starting, like they're struggling, you're going to put the hardest worker on the field because it's like, okay, hey, he may not be hitting well, but I at least trust him to wear a pitch. I at least trust him to run hard. I at least trust him to slide hard into a bag. Or if you go, oh, hey, well, that kid's more talented and he's still striking out looking, jogging out balls, it's like, how's that going to help us win?
Right. So I think the way to wrap up that high school tryout talk is just, the biggest thing I think we learned from Joe at the Yinzer. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that made us feel like we could elevate our game to the next level is have some feel.
Oh,
right?
God.
And it took one day of being around those high-level athletes at the Yinzer to really understand what that meant. If you surrounded yourself around the right people, which I felt did, I definitely felt like I stayed away from, the nonsense. But have some feel. And that's just, it's only a statement, and you don't get it until you get it. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You can't explain what having the feel is. It's just, you get it when you understand.
The closest way I could explain it for the people on the air that are probably like, what's feel, is basically don't do anything stupid. Like, if you see your coach, your manager having a conversation with someone and you walk in, Coach, when's my turn to hit? When are you going to put me in? I lost it. We were playing a game against Roosevelt High School, and the varsity coach sends down a player to, he's like, hey, I want this varsity guy to get a couple of bats on the JV team. Kid showed up late and whatever, and I'm trying to coach a game. And I'm literally, I swear to God, I'm going to stand up or slightly stand up. I'm mid-sign, doing my thing and mid-sign. Hey, coach. And like, he's literally trying, like, because I'm literally in the third base box and he's
Yeah, I'm
literally
like, I need a minute.
yeah,
I need a
I'm,
minute.
I'm in the third base. I'm in the third base freaking coach's box and my team's in the third base dugout. I'm mid giving a sign and he's like, coach, when are you going to put me in? Coach, can you hear me? And I'm just like mid, I finished the sign. I'm like, shut the hell up. I was like, I'll put you in when I put you in.
Yeah, just shut
But
up
like
and
a lot of kids
just
don't get
do
that.
like what's expected and what's not expected. You know what
Yeah,
I
I pulled
mean?
the kid to the side. I'm like, look, you're a varsity guy. I understand you're going to need to get reps on JV, but like you showed up an inning late, which I knew you were going to do, but you can't just ask me when you're going to come in. I'm going to put you in. Just wait till I tell you something. But like, and some of these other players too, like they just they do the wrong thing at the wrong time. That's like, you throwing a friggin' 70 pitch bullpen and then me saying, hey Shane, can you play catch with me? Dude, that is negative feel right there, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's like know the situation. No,
100%.
read the room kind of thing.
For sure. So a good coach, a good manager is able to see that in guys and players, or see that developing through the youth athlete. I'm able to see that through a lot of my youth athletes. Now, let's roll into tell me how a bad coach would kind of negatively affect, that same kind of standpoint.
So I'm pulling up my phone because I remember I sent you that Instagram post.
Yep.
And they say, these are the signs of a bad coach. Before, during, and after, signs of a bad coach. Blames players, doesn't take accountability. Plays favorites instead of those who deserve to play. Tears down players instead of building them up. Doesn't create healthy culture for the team. Doesn't teach development or support athletes. And then your personal edition, the drill sergeant YouTube coach, baby.
Drill sergeant, man. Let me tell you.
But I'll say this. All those things, I've had my fair share of coaches. And then I got to watch my brother playing growing up. He had his fair share of coaches. And obviously you've probably had yours. The ones that drive me crazy are the ones that blame the player. Like, granted, yes. If an opposing team no hits you, yeah, it's like, yeah, okay, our offense wasn't clicking. But it's always you guys lost us the game. At the end of the day, the coach and the players are a part of the same team.
Yeah, we did not prepare you enough to be ready for this game. I think Coach Augie from Texas, if anyone's ever seen that video, I think that's a good way to see a good, wholehearted manager. And that's exactly what you want is even though he's reaming out his players, he apologizes that he didn't get them ready enough for that game. And that's the difference between a good and a bad coach.
And I'll say this. I remember a couple games, especially when I first started off as the JV coach at Kennedy. I was just trying to test guys out. These guys, they like to flex their skills. Coach, I'm the fastest on the team. All right. He's on first, 2 outs, ball's hit. I'm going to send the guy. Just, it's a fall game. I'm just I got him thrown out. And I said, guess what? That's on me. That's not on me. Now, granted, did the kid hesitate rounding third? Oh, yes, absolutely.
But now you know his speed, you know his tempo.
I know his speed, but I was also like, look, I tried to get aggressive. This kid said he was fast. I sent him. I tested the left fielder's arm. The left fielder made a perfect throw. Like,
how often does that happen in high school baseball?
Yeah. Now, and it's like one of those things. Now I know. And I even approached the team because that was the tying run and it was in the 6th inning. I said, listen, did we play great as a team? No. Did I screw up a couple times? I'll take my accountability. Yeah, I screwed up. But guess what? Even though I had my mistakes, you guys had yours. We're in this together at the end of the day. But I've also seen situations like mine with the coach coaching. He sends the guy, gets him thrown out, and instead of taking account, he's like, God damn it, man, you need to run faster. You need to get a better read. And it's like, bro, what?
Yeah. And then, like you said about that drill sergeant coach, working at DBAT, I see a lot of these dads, coaches, teams, come into the facility and, they only have like a couple cages for a half hour, an hour. But in that half hour, I'll be damned if they don't do 6 5-minute drills, or in the hour, it's, 12 5-minute drills. And it's all stuff. It's like, I watched that on a reel yesterday. You know what I mean? It's like, something I pride my drills on, and I hear from a lot of parents is, oh, I've never seen it done that way. Or, oh, that's a new variation to an old drill we used to do. And I think doing the same drills repetitively, like clearly they can take you so far. But again, like I said, and all of my athletes so far have been successful, especially my high school guys. You know, I'm proud of all of them. They've all made a team through the text messages I've got. But it's a different approach. You know, if you trust me and I trust you, you know, we can stay away from watching the YouTube drills and, you know, just trying to bang out drill after drill after drill. And I think some coaches think that's an easy way to eat up practice time. You know, instead of like when a guy misses a ground ball, you know, walk him back through it. Like, what did he do? If he makes a bad throw, where did he pull his shoulder to? These drill sergeant coaches, it's just next ground ball, next ground ball, next ground ball, right? They don't care who messes up. They just, you know, they just want you to do it right repetitively. There's no learning session behind it. It's just,
and that's the thing.
Yeah, that's it.
You have to understand, and this is just with all coaches in general. I make some of my players do the same drills over and over again, not because I'm not creative but I need my players to know what they are doing. Why did you miss that ground ball? Why did you hit the ball on the tee? And do it over and over to a near perfection, and then we move on to the next technique. And I will say this, some players get bored of the same drills, but when they realize, oh, hey, if I focus up and do it right for 5 swings, we're going to be done with this drill and we'll move on to the next a lot quicker. And that's kind of one of those things where these coaches it's just repetition after repetition, swing after swing. Give them their money's worth. They sign up for a half hour, 45 minutes, you know, with training. Get them a bunch of swings.
I tell a lot of my clients, right, when we're just floating, some of the kids, they just want to hit the ball as soon as it's on the tee, just whack, 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 right? I'm like, listen, that's not helping us at all, right? Even though you're hitting the ball, you're hitting the shit out of the ball, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't care if you step into the cage and hit 30 balls in 30 minutes. We don't even have to finish a bucket. You know, there's no reason for you to pick up a bucket 2-3 times in a half-hour hitting lesson. And it's hard to explain, like, a swing a minute's not a bad thing because you need to transfer your cage swing to your game swing. A lot of people, and then, you know, they have a great tee swing, and then I go out front and give them front toss, and then they're swinging like this again. It's like,
well, it's funny because since I stopped
progress just for you not to be able to hit out front because everything was just as fast as possible.
Well, it's funny you say that because when I got moved out of my facility that I was originally using, I started training kids just doing the bow net, tee, soft toss, right? Mm-hmm. And a couple of families that, you know, expect flash and stuff when they work out with an instructor, they didn't get flash from me. And, you know, the kid went through less than a bucket in a half hour. I talked to him most of the time. And the dad was kind of like on the fence, like, man, like, I feel like I didn't get my money's worth kind of thing. And I'm like, look, just trust the process. If he does everything we worked on, if he inputted everything I told him, he's going to be competitive this tournament. I get a text 3 days later. What did you do to my son? We were facing a guy throwing 65 in the first pitch. He hit it over the center fielder's head that one bounced the fence. He's like, I've never seen my kid hit for power. I'm like, it's because I taught him. I didn't just throw to him. I taught him. But I want to get your opinion on this because I know you got to be headed to practice soon. And this is something
we got about 10 minutes left here.
We got to cover this. When you hear playing favorites as a coach, I want to hear your topic on because I've got so many variations on this one.
Yeah, dude. Well, let's just finish up with a story each then, because I can combine this into 2 things.
Okay.
So again, we've both had our fair share of coaches, ones that we've loved like grandfathers, and some that just aren't it. Whether we've worked with them, we played for them, or we just watched them in their own element. I know of a coach. And speaking of playing favorites, he came into a program, and this is so direct, but I really don't care. He came into a back-to-back Whitfield championship program, right? And the previous head coach left, and it was bringing along his son and a younger son. Now, I had 5 seniors graduate, 4 of which really played every day. You know what I mean? Maybe 3 or 4. 4 of them were everyday guys. And so it was a pretty much the same team coming into this year, right? They moved up a section, they're back-to-back champions, everything's going great. And we get this guy who is just putting his kid in. We had a first baseman, it was like the first game. The first baseman doesn't trail a runner to second base, right?
Oh.
It happens. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like he was going to be part of the play. The ball was going to third base. Like, whether he backed up or not, it didn't affect the play, but yeah, he should have been there, right? First day, dude, I kid you not, pulls the kid out of the game, puts his son right into first base.
Damn.
And I'm like, that's not how this is going to be all season long, right?
Like, no warning, just pulled the kid.
No warning. Like, first baseman, you're on the bench. This dude, you're going in. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And now this is the same guy who walked into a room full of people, parents and players and coaches, didn't fail to skip over the coaching staff while he circled his finger around the room and said, I want everybody in here to know that I have forgotten more about baseball than everybody in this room combined knows or will ever know about baseball. And that was his point on how smart he was. And you want to talk about making a bad impression and bad coaching?
Bro.
I have gotten numerous text messages about how just poorly this program has been going. And it hurts to see like a back-to-back top-tier program just dwindling based on a decision, the school made, based on, he said he was going to give money to the people, right? He bought everybody Nike gear because he's a dentist, right? It's like there's no prior coaching other than coaching his son. And so rolling into both of those topics, right, I think that answers both questions about playing favorites. It's like it's at every level. Mm-hmm. And where I coach now at Central, we have a coach who basically said his son plays. He's a junior catcher, and his dad's the JV coach. And he was like, listen, very, very intelligent decision here, if you ask me. The dad understood, right? Coach understood. My son's not going to be the starting catcher next year, right? And we have a 10th grader who probably is going to be the starting catcher next year. He said, by no means am I advocating for my son for a spot. He said, because I understand he shouldn't touch the field. He said, put my son as the varsity bullpen catcher instead of the 10th grader and let the 10th grader get all of those JV starting reps and just let my son, catch pens for the next 2 years. Right? If that's what it's worth, that's what it's worth. And I was like, coach, that's a really good idea. And I can really back that up. I have your back fully. I see that you're not trying to put your kid on varsity for some agenda, right? You're trying to do something for the program. So yes, daddy ball, we talked about it episode 1. It's still in high school ball. And, it's probably still in college sports.
Well, I'll even say this.
It's on you now, my man.
The players aren't stupid. Like, plain and simple, they're not stupid. I actually was in a tough pickle. My assistant coach had to get a hernia surgery, so he was out a couple of days, and I wasn't trying to bother him. And players were, like, voicing opinion. I heard them during stretch and talking, and I said, you know what? You guys write the lineup. They all were like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, everyone give me their individual lineup. And what was funny is myself and all the players were on the same page. So I'm like, hold on a minute. We haven't won a game. You're complaining about this, but we're all on the same page. Like, but one thing with my experience when I've seen coaches that play favorites, there's the coaches that their son will make 5 errors in an inning, but then the minute someone else makes an error, that's the kid that gets yelled at. And I've also seen coaches that will play 5 games, right? They will get blown out in all 5 of those games, yet it's still the same starting line. It's like, dude, you lost every game 12-1, 14-0, 15-2. Clearly, your starting 9 isn't getting the job done. No one's hitting. No one's playing defense. Why do they keep continuing to play? In my opinion, every coach does have their favorites. But there's some coaches.
Yeah, but dude, I will say it. I cut or didn't roster a couple of my favorite kids to be around. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm a realist, and I know you can't lose in high school baseball. It's a win-now situation. Well, so you want to talk about not playing favorites, like I'll go to that extreme. I love you guys, and I wish you the best. But at the same time, we can't afford anything.
And I'll say
still
this.
my favorite kids.
Some guys that play favorites, they play favorites because it's their son or it's their buddies or they know these guys. Then there's other coaches that, well, he's my favorite because he can hit bombs or he can throw 90. And then there's others that are like, the kid works hard. So like everyone's got like
exactly. I like the work.
Everyone's got their like little niche, but at the same time, every coach, because if you're signing in to coach and you're trying to lose, it's the wrong job. That's like being a dentist and trying to make sure your clients lose their teeth. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
so
dude,
it's like one of those things where
that.
it's like every coach has an idea on how to win. Some have great ideas. Others have terrible ideas.
Horrible ideas.
It just kind of depends. Like, oh, I want to play these guys. I think we're going to win with these guys, but I like these guys. Or, hey, these guys aren't the most talented, but they've got a little bit of grit. I'd rather start them. Or, oh, hey, we're just going to go with the guys that just have natural talent. Let's pray to God they play a good game. Like it's there. You could tell the differences, especially when coaches are making their adjustments. And some coaches never make adjustments because they're too stubborn to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah, they just roll right with it. They expect, they're trying to appease boosters. They're trying to appease parents. They're trying to appease, and they're not just – sometimes coaches have to be stubborn enough to just play the game they know.
Yeah, like
they're the coach for, supposed to be a coach for the reason.
At the end of the day, you can't keep everyone happy. So with me, what I try to do, I try to be honest. Look, I'm trying to win games. This is what I see in practice. This is what I see in the games. And clearly it's not working out in the games. Something needs to change because if I give this kid 4 or 5 more chances, he might strike out in this situation 4 or 5 more times, and it's going to cost us. We need to make moves like now,
Right.
Like I said, it's not a college season where it's 60 games. It's not a pro season where it's 160 games. You can't wait for a guy to get hot because by the time he gets hot, you might be halfway through the year and now everyone's screwed.
Yeah. Well, dude, I know it was a short episode. I got to get heading to practice here. We got our first game next Wednesday, scrimmage game.
Nice, baby.
So we got lives coming tomorrow. I'm gonna throw to some of the guys tomorrow, so I'm excited for it.
Dude, I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania now. Now I want to hit.
I'll take some lives, man. But other than that, you got any closing remarks for us?
You know what, boys? All I gotta say is this. The way to overcome certain challenges and the bad coaching, you gotta keep that grit. Keep that intensity and build your skills because at the end of the day, good or bad coach, they're going to notice a 90-mile-an-hour arm. They're going to notice fast 60. They're going to notice powerful exit velo. If you want to beat a bad coach, you have got to be undeniably good, and everyone's got to be able to see it. If you do that, it's like what Joe Torre says. Can't get scammed if you're good. Plain and simple.
That's right. That's plain and simple, my man.
Yes, sir.
All right, dude. Well, another episode coming out next week. And we'll keep the social media posts rolling, and this has been a fun start so far. So I can't wait to hopefully get this to pop off here soon.
Hopefully, Carmex sponsors us, but if not,
shout out to
Carmex. Hey, shout out to Pollo Loco. I buy your food every day. Someone sponsor me, please.
Yeah, one nutrition bars also. I'll take a truckload of them.
Anyway, man, we'll catch you guys on the air next week.
Me and Rudy say goodnight.
Nighty night.
Nighty night.